are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Oh, it's another day in the life, I just I get by day to day.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if do you still work?
No, well, I do some projects, but very, very part-time, but and I can't work full-time anymore.
What kind of projects?
I do stuff around my book. I do speeches.
Okay.
I do some webinars.
So you're also I'm on disability. Are you on disability?
I am, yes.
How does that work with your speeches? Do you get paid?
I do, yes.
Okay, so you're under the income threshold for
Yes, yes,
disability.
yeah. Like way, way under.
Yeah, I know. I actually I give plasma to make up some of that difference.
Mhm.
So, but it's funny because I saw you read a book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I was hoping you could tell me and everybody else more about it because
Sure.
the people who watch my channel, it's a diverse and eclectic bunch because
Hmm.
they're either runners, triathletes, cyclists, or they're brain injury survivors. And so I kind of got a hodgepodge that I kind of keep happy.
Hmm. Neat.
So, how did you get your TBI?
It was a car accident back in 1999. I was broadsided on the driver's side by somebody going about 50 miles an hour.
Oh, I got hit by somebody going about 50 miles an hour too, but I was on a bike.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds worse.
It was a lot more painful, I can tell you that. But and it's hard to tell which way I got mine because first my face hit his mirror and took off the
Mm.
mirror. Then the back
Ooh.
of my head took off, hit the ground. So
Mm.
one of the two caused it, maybe both.
Hmm. Yeah, I would think so.
So how long did your recovery phase last? I'm going into my fifth year in a few 2 weeks actually. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Everybody's different.
I consider myself self still in recovery mode. That I mean, I still am making gains, even though I am 23 years out. I mean, yes, the fastest part of recovery was in the first, couple of years, but I am better now than I was a couple of years ago. I mean, it is small, it is slow, but I believe that my brain will be recovering for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I have. Sorry, I just desperately need coffee today. When I drove out to Dunkin', I'm like, I need coffee because I ran out of coffee. But yeah, I noticed mine was very complicated because the first 2 years ish, I was in a bad situation with my relationship, and I wasn't getting any help whatsoever in recovery. So,
Mm.
you know, I tried to keep working, and you can't you can't expect things to work out if you haven't done anything to change your situation.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's where I was. I wasn't getting help from my ex. I wasn't getting help in general. So it was like, and that first 2 years is probably the most critical time too.
Hmm.
But I noticed after that relationship ended and I started to make progress, and I was back on my own again
Hmm.
because I kind of carried the burden of the fear that I was going to lose my job, which I applied for disability. Once I got that, it's like,
Yeah, yes, yeah, I remember that was a huge relief when that getting that.
yeah. And then, then I wasn't fearing losing my ex. I don't know if you were with someone when were you in a relationship?
I wasn't at the time.
Okay. I was going to say, so once that was gone, I felt better too. But then I was going to ask you is now are you married now?
No,
No relationship?
not right now. No, no.
Okay. So I was
Pandemic
gonna
took
say,
that
I don't know
out.
how you approach dating again after your brain injury.
That's been hard, I must admit.
That's what I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, I wish I had good answers. I have found that the guys I've dated, it's been hard for them to understand the brain injury, because I look I
Physical
look just
injury.
I look just fine. But I can't keep up with neuronormal. I simply can't.
I like
Um,
that. The neuronormal. I've never heard that one before.
I I think I might have made it up.
It's not bad. It's a good one.
Um, and I have to rest every day. I have to take things at my own pace. Um, And that's, it's harder on a relationship.
Do you
So
have?
I am still struggling with that one myself.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. There's a lot of aspects about it that you have to confront, right? First of
Mm-hmm.
all, you have a brain injury, and the second thing is like, how do you explain to someone you're on disability? I don't know if it's as difficult for you because you're somewhat older than me, but I mean, I'm 37 and on disability. That's kind of a turnoff to people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because when this happened to me, I was 32. I'm not 32 anymore, but
Me too. Same thing with
it's,
me.
I beat my parents to Medicare. That was not one of my life goals. But
Yeah,
that's that's what happened, and it's a hard like, thing for people to understand. I lost my career before it really had a chance to get started.
no one gave you the choice to leave your
Right.
profession. That's the one thing I forgave the guy who hit me. I didn't forgive my ex for being neglectful, but the guy who hit me, he made that. There are important life decisions that other people made for me. I didn't get a say in it. It's my life.
Yeah, it definitely changed my life, forever.
Yeah.
That there are still times when I think that what would life have been, if this hadn't happened to me. I'm enormously proud of what I've done as a brain injury survivor, but I think there's always that wondering of what would I be if this hadn't happened when I was 32.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even a full 10 years into my career as an
Yep.
architect.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had same here. Less than 10 years of a career.
So, I mean, and the thing is, there's no playbook to follow. Everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
you know, sure, like talking to people like you, it helps me kind of work out the details of that playbook. But and the fact that my mom, she also got disabled at 32. Hers is a nerve injury,
Mm-hmm.
being a nurse. But so I kind of draw from her about how to do some of this stuff. But there's not one person you can ask for all your advice. Like, being a mother, you can talk to your mom or other moms. Just it's not there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. Everybody's experience is definitely different. And I know that early on, I just wanted somebody to give me the plan. And there was nobody that could give me the plan. That, because each one of us is different, we all have to kind of figure out, well, how do you make your life work now? What can bring us joy? If we can't work anymore, if we can't do the things we used to do, who are we? Who are we now? And one of the things that I found is that the early years were all about figuring out, how am I different, and adjusting to all the differences. But then as time went on, it's about realizing that I'm still the same in a lot of ways. I mean, I was a teacher before. I'm still a teacher. I just teach in very different ways now. But that part of who I am, that didn't change. The way I do it did.
I'm not an architect anymore, and I'm not like your situation. I can't be one.
Mm-hmm.
I had to. There was a lawsuit over mine, and I remember my old boss at the first job I was at while I got injured. Um, he said it was like watching a second grader trying to do math.
Mm.
Yeah, as a
But,
teacher,
but, I, but I would imagine that some of the love of design would
huh?
be there for you.
It is, and I still design stuff like I did. I did this map. It's a lot
Cool.
more detailed than you think. There's all the if you break it down into freeways, main roads, state routes, and your side streets, you can see the side streets if you're on top of it. So it's very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the extent of my design work. And
Mm-hmm.
that's my
Yeah. So I think it is about honor, about figuring, well, how am I the same? Because there is still a piece of you that's in there that's the same. Maybe you can't do this the same thing.
I can't work at the same speed, that's for sure.
Oh gosh, oh goodness, no, me neither. Definitely not. And I'm gonna pull down I have a shade up here that's I got a bright light, so I'm gonna just turn my camera off briefly, pull my shade down.
bright lights bother you?
Yes.
Like direct sunlight, high like fluorescent
There
lights?
we go. That's a little better. Is there a noise on your side?
Yeah, it's this laptop.
Okay.
A little bit of a buzz. It's old and it's starting to go. And actually, the screen. So instead of being flat, the screen's got a bow on the end.
Ah.
It's maybe a month or two left. I just bought a new one, so I'm just.
Mhm.
Um, so you do have light sensitivity.
I do. Yeah, light and sound sensitivity.
So what are your other side effects that you have? Do you have the ability to read the room anymore?
What do you mean?
Like perception, like read people, read the room, that kind of thing.
That I can do. Depth perception. I lost depth perception.
That's
Um,
I don't know
I
that.
lost. I mean, my spatial skills were never that good to begin with, and I learned that there's a difference between average and moderately impaired in terms of that, or as I call it, comically impaired. Um, I have difficulties with attention and concentration, fatigue, brain fatigue. I get brain tired every day. I take a nap every day. Um, you know, when there's too much kind of going on, I get overwhelmed
Why do
by
you
it.
comically impaired?
Just because this is just I try to find humor in things that aren't actually funny.
Yeah,
And for me, like I never defined myself by spatial skills because I wasn't very good at it. Um, so now the fact that I'm really, really bad at it, like really, really bad at it, I kind of find that funny. So that's why I call it comically impaired. Um,
my depth perception is gone. My field of vision is also narrowed. I went through a lot of what do you call it? It's the eye rehabilitation optometrist.
so like neurooptometry.
That's the one.
Yep. I have done that too. That was enormously helpful for me.
It did, but after about 9 months, I didn't see a whole lot more progress, so I stopped going.
Hmm.
So, um, where are you actually located?
I'm in Maine.
Okay, so do you have a lot of resources for where you're interested about? I'm in Atlanta, so I mean it's a different situation for you. It's a huge area with
Yeah,
population.
I'm in the most populated part of Maine in the Portland area. So there are decent resources here. Yes.
Okay, you've got good water. I heard you can drink from the streams there. True.
Yeah,
Oh wow. I've always wanted.
some of them anyway.
Yeah, I've always wanted to come up and race in Maine. I'm also a triathlete. That part of me carried over. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm still a triathlete. I'm not as fast though. It's because of the depression. Um, but that's caused by the TBI, unfortunately.
Hmm.
I don't know if you went through depression too.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It's usually a very male thing. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that kind of caused me to be a slower triathlete. But that's one part of my identity that I didn't lose.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was happy about that. I don't know.
Yes.
You have any hobbies that you're able to retain that you're still doing?
I enjoy doing like family genealogy, like researching
Yeah,
family history, and it slowed down because it's kind of cognitively intensive, but I could still do it because it was a previously learned skill. It wasn't having to learn new things to do it.
that's funny because my family, there's a dead end in my family. So my last name is Esposito, and it's a very common last name for Italians, and that's because back in like 200 years ago or so, there was an orphanage in Naples. So when they sent you off into the real world, they told you your last name's Esposito. It literally means bastard child. So I can only trace anything back to that.
Ah.
But yeah, so that's my funny genealogy story.
Hmm.
But and the funnier part is because it came from an orphanage, there are so many people with the last name Esposito, but none of us are related unless it's your
Mm. That's fascinating.
yeah. So Like my ex that I was with when I got my brain injury, her mom's maiden name was Esposito. Probably like one of the only Italians in the South to date. We're not very common down here. I'm actually from
Mhm.
Ohio. So tell me, how did you get into speaking? Like, tell me about your process there.
Um, it was it was a process. There was I'll start where it doesn't, it's not going to seem obvious, but um, I've tried for years to go back to like teaching. I was also a musician. I was a violinist and a singer. I
Wow,
tried for years to go back to those things, and I couldn't do it.
I'm not gonna ask you to sing.
No. Um, and there was eventually, I kind of had to come to the realization of, well, what am I going to do now? If I can't do these things I used to do, what do I do now? And there was this little voice inside me that was telling me to make something, which was really weird for me because I was not somebody who liked to do things with her hands. Um, and I said, well,
Right.
but I wasn't a crafty type person though. Um, and so I just said, well, I don't know what else to do. I'll try something. So I tried to paint by number. And I discovered that I loved that little thing, that I liked seeing the colors come together. I felt like I was having success at something after I'd failed so many times to get back to my old life. And that paint by number led to, well, what else can I try? Started making jewelry. This is some earrings I made, um, and necklaces. And then that led to teaching other brain injury survivors how to make jewelry. And that eventually led to the Maine Brain Injury Association. Somebody I knew was on the conference committee and said, there's going to be a workshop about creativity after brain injury. We'd like you to participate in this. You come, have a little table, show us some of your crafts, and give a little talk about them. So that was my first opportunity to speak about brain injury. My speech was like 5 minutes long, and I was like so nervous. I mean, I was glad there was a podium in front of me because my knees were shaking the entire time that I was up there. But I had this overwhelming feeling while I was talking of like, I'm home. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. That I want to do more of this. That I want to share my story. I want to do something with this experience. I want to use what I've been through to help other people somehow. And ever so gradually, more speaking opportunities through the support group that I was part of. We put on little like workshops, and I spoke at those. That led to eventually doing a keynote for the Maine Brain Injury Association. And then just kind of continuing to ever so slowly, finding more opportunities to speak. And now I keynote all across the country. Pre-pandemic, it was in person. The last couple of years, it's been on Zoom. Hopefully, it's going to be going back to in person again.
I'd like to get into that. My thing was I started the YouTube channel, where I had a video log for it, and it got popular, which was cool. But I'd like to do speaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book, but I've never got it published.
Mm-hmm.
After my brain injury, it's funny. I started writing the second I got home from the hospital because I knew this was going to be a lawsuit for one, and take years before you actually make it to trial. You know,
Mm-hmm.
my short-term memory is shot to shit anyway. You can't ask me to remember details of the accident 5, 10 years later. So I wrote them all down, and
Mm-hmm.
I stopped writing.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Writing is one of those things that I enjoy doing.
Yes, yeah. I have always loved to write. I journaled for years, using it to make sense of my experience. And I mean, from childhood on, I was somebody who I always wanted to write a book, but I never knew what it was going to be about. And then I tried for quite a number of years to write my book, and I couldn't do it. And then I gave it up for a good number of years because I thought, well, I can't do this. And it wasn't until what was it, 2016, that all of a sudden I realized, or 2015, like, oh, wait a minute, yes, I can do this.
Tell me more about your book.
Um, It's called To Root and to Rise, Accepting Brain Injury. That's it right there. Um,
Title, I like it.
um, and the title comes from one of my poems. And it's about acceptance. It's about how do we find peace after brain injury? How do we accept when our lives have changed so dramatically? I mean, I know I struggled mightily with that. I didn't think that.
Years for me to be able to accept, and then once
Mhm.
once you're able to accept, you can move on to adapting.
Yeah, took me longer than that. Took me about 8 years to completely make peace with brain injury. I fought for years to get back to the old Carole. And I figured, well, since this was so hard for me and I learned so much, maybe I can share what I've learned with other people. It's a workbook, so people can, and with questions at the end of each chapter, so people can take what they've learned from me and apply it to their own brain injury journeys.
That's actually really great idea. I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, I wanted to write. There are many books out there that cover the survivor experience where people tell their stories, and I just decided that I didn't want to write a book like that. That my story had taken just too many twists and turns. That I didn't feel like it had a good narrative to it. So I don't tell things in order. I tell things in it is a rough order to it,
Like a
but
Tarantino, you tell things the way you think are important.
exactly, yes. The way that it makes sense to me in terms of acceptance. So my story is in there, but it's not in there in a chronological, sequential kind of way.
Okay, that's great. That's a great approach to it. It's different.
Yes,
It sets you apart from the rest because
yes.
my book is like the other people's, where you tell your story, and there's only there's so many of those out there. It's good to be different.
Yeah, and and I think it comes from, I mean, I'm still a teacher at heart, so I still want to teach somehow. Still want to help people learn.
How many copies have you sold?
Um, 3,700 and something.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I'm really really very happy with
Congratulations.
that.
What do you put it on? Amazon?
Yep, yep. It's on Amazon. Um,
You have to self-publish?
I did, yes. And I looked at a number of different options and decided that, you know what, I can learn my way through how to do this.
Yes, you can. We all can. That's a nice.
Yes, it's just just one step at a time.
Yeah, that's the thing about brain injuries. They told me that I have the processing speed of 50% of an average person, not of what I used to be, because
Mm-hmm.
not to my own horn, but I got a master's from Georgia Tech, so you have to be somewhat smart to get into that school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But now I've been reduced to 50% of an average person.
Mm-hmm.
George Carlin joke, think of your average person, and then 50% is stupider than that, right? So it's like, well, that's all I am now, but it doesn't mean I can't learn. It just means it's harder to learn.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It took me 12 years to write my book.
No, I mean, even though I wrote every day, it doesn't mean it's digestible as a book. I think
Mm-hmm.
500 pages in there, one single space, 8.5 by 11. That's way more than a book could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Mm-hmm.
I should probably look into how to chop that down or format it into a different way that's easier digesting.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what it's all about is how do we use our experience? Which pieces of our experience are beneficial for others? And how do you choose like what pieces to tell? What parts of the story to tell?
And it's funny because everything that I've written, it's like two books in one, but you can't separate them because I identify myself as both a TBI survivor, but also a triathlete. And they're
Mm-hmm.
two different stories, but they're so intertwined that you can't pull them apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think you should.
Right. Yeah. I don't think you have to.
Yeah. But
Because that's part of what makes you unique.
yeah, that's definitely unique. You say it more kindly than my mom would. my mom loves me, but she definitely thinks I'm a, maybe it's not the brain injury. You're just kind of dumb sometimes, son. But yeah. So what is your future like? What do you plan on doing with yourself?
Well, I'm continuing to do more speeches. I like to think that maybe I have another book in me. I enjoy taking what I call resilience inspired pictures, pictures that speak to life with a challenge. And I like to, and I have visions of writing about them. I haven't written about very many of them yet. I have way more pictures than I have writing to go with them. And doing something with that.
What kind of pictures? Like, give me just throw some out there that you could think of off the top of your head. Like,
Well, I have one that I have not taken it yet, but it's just up the street. There's a this wonderful little like forest where there's a whole bunch of trees that are down, and the trees are that are down are just kind of crisscrossing through the woods. And then when the sun comes through, it reminds me of hope through a challenge, that the path forward is very murky, that it's hard to get through because there's a lot of things in the way, but yet there's a light that shines through. When that's the hope, that's the optimism that yes, there is, that you do find a path.
see, and like, I don't so. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this because explaining stuff is not really my forte. But um, when I see a picture like that, and I think that's my road that I have to go down, what I want to do with myself is I want to move those trees out of the way so that those who come from behind me can have the clear path.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I wanted to do with my life. Or at least, I don't know how I'm going to do that, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
speaker or promote my channel, but
Mm-hmm.
that's, I wanted to be able to clear the way,
Mm-hmm.
make other
Mm-hmm.
people's lives easier.
Mm-hmm. And I know my own experience has been just, that one thing at a time, that then the more I put myself out there, the more opportunities have come in ways that I didn't even know would be out there. And I trust that whatever the next piece of the journey is will reveal itself.
Yeah. You don't know when, you don't know where or how, but it does.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because I know that whenever I try to make a plan, my brain injury laughs at me.
Yeah. Trust me, I got that because I signed up for like 10 triathlons this season and I only raced two. And it's like, ugh, I through two of them. I don't know if sleep disturbance is one of your symptoms.
Sometimes.
Yeah, mine is not a continuous habitual thing. It's a random sporadic thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'll keep me up for a couple of days and I'll sleep for like 15 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's that struggle between how much do I try to make plans and how much do I let things evolve as they're going to evolve, and that push and pull and just doing the best I can on any given day.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, hey, Carol, thanks for talking with me today. It was very helpful for me, and I'm sure everybody else will find it helpful too.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out and inviting me to talk with you today. This has been great.
Thank you. So I hope you have a great week.
Thanks, you too.
I don't know what day it is actually. I think it's
It's Wednesday. Yes.
to the weekend. Well, you get what I mean.
Yes.
All right. Well, take it easy.
Yes, we'll do. You too. All right.